Sadi Beis Amid Beis. We are on the bottom. We ended with a complicated Mishnah, but nothing's complicated when you make it simple. So we ended with a complicated Mishnah over there on the Omer Isha Aryai Mikudeshes. And we came out with saying that if you give a guy a shard, so then he's going to head and take a pearl. And basically by saying, like, yeah, very nicely you explained the Mishnah and said that we don't need to know that Kedushin is not Tovsin when the Yevama goes L'shuk. But Lamais said the only reason you were able to explain that Mishnah like that is because I had told you that that's the din. Because if not, how would you have explained that Mishnah? Why do any of these cases not work? Not because Kedushin is not tofes by Yevama L'shuk. You would have said, as we're going to see today, that these cases don't work because at the end of the day, Ein Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam, that you can't do business with anything that is not yet in this world. So we're going to get to that today, but that was as of yesterday. So let's. Tofes means to grab, to work. In our cases, the Kedushin is not Tofes, it doesn't grab, it doesn't work. It's not Chal. So Amalei Reish Lakish. Ilav Dikalsach Gavarabba. If you were not a Gavarabba, if you were not praised by Rav Yanai, Havamina L'cha'an, I would have said, Masnisin Rabbi Akiva, Hidamar Ein Kedushin Tovsin B'chayav Elavin. I would have said that this Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva who says that Kedushin is not Tofes by a Chayav Elavin, and therefore, as we said yesterday, when she goes L'shuk, so the children will be mamzer. V'i Rabbi Akiva. So now we're going to concentrate and we're going to get on to a whole discussion today, an interesting discussion of, again, whether Ein Adam or Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. If you do business with something that's not currently in this world. Now, it might be in this world, but it ain't in your world. And the question is, can you do or can you not do transactions and other things with that? So if it's Rabbi Akiva, ki amar la la'achar sheyachlot lech yivamech. Let's go back to the Mishnah yesterday. What did we have yesterday? We had where I take my kesef kedushin and I give it to a woman, and I say to her, hareyad mikudesha li la'achar she'es gayer. Just using some of the examples, not all of them. After I become Jewish, I'm not Jewish now. Take this now, and as soon as I become Jewish, so the kedushin that we're doing now will be chal. So right now, I am a davar shelo ba la'olam. I am a thing that's not yet in this world, vis-a-vis Judaism, because at the end of the day, right now I'm not Jewish. And we said that there are some of the cases where a little bit presumptuous when you go over to a woman and say, after your husband dies, so we are now married with this kedushin. That was a little bit presumptuous. Also, alachar shesh tamud achoteich, right? The halacha is that if I'm married to a girl, so I'm not allowed to marry her sister. Even if I divorce my wife, I can't marry her sister as long as my wife or my ex-wife is still alive. As soon as your wife or ex-wife passes away, so now her sister is mutter to you. But even if you divorce your wife, you cannot marry her sister as long as she's still alive. Or for our case, you have this woman who is zakok li yavam, there's a yavam waiting for her. So you go over to the woman and you say, this kedushin that I'm giving you now will be chal once you become permitted to the shuk. When do you become permitted to the shuk? When the yavam gives you chalitza. So what do we see over here? So we would say, Rabbi Akiva ki amar la achar shilach lo tzlechi v'mech litfesa ba kedushin. So it's hard to say that this Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva, because what does the Mishnah say? Eina mikudeshes. In all of these cases, it doesn't work. If I give you this watch, if I give you the money and I say this will work, the kedushin that we're doing now will kick in as soon as he divorces you. So when he divorces you, when he does chalitza on you, lemaisi, you need to do another kedushin, because the kedushin that you did now is not going to be chal, because right now it was a davar shelo ba la'olam. Right now you weren't Jewish, so it can't be that when you become Jewish now retroactively this kedushin which we did says, okay, now it kicks in as soon as you become Jewish, because at the end of the day, when you did it, you weren't Jewish. You got to do another kedushin when you become Jewish. So how can the Mishnah be Rabbi Akiva if Rabbi Akiva holds what? Rabbi Akiva says you could do business with something that's not in this world, and therefore, if according to Rabbi Akiva, if I do kedushin to a woman and I say this kedushin should be chal after your yibum, after your yavam does chalitza on you, according to Rabbi Akiva, the halacha should be mikudeshes, not mikudeshes now, but mikudeshes as soon as he does chalitza. So our Mishnah can't be, this Mishnah that we're quoting cannot be Rabbi Akiva. Did nan, where do we see that Rabbi Akiva holds that Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam? And again, that's what we're going to spend today doing. We're going to be discussing these cases where somebody can be Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. We're not going to get into every single detail of every case, but we're just going to go through the general cases. Konem shani ose lepicha in sarech lahafer. If a woman says to her husband, any work that I do will not go to you, will remain with me. So the husband does not have to be made for that. He doesn't have to annul that vow, because at the end of the day, he gets all of her work anyway. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Yafer. Rabbi Akiva says that he should go ahead and be Yafer. He should annul the vow. Why? Shema tadif alav yoser min harai lo. because, as Rashi explains, he only gets a certain amount of Masiyadeh. It's okay for your wife to work. Just make sure she doesn't make too much money. Because if she makes too much money, then some of it goes into her bank account. So what does he say here? He says that you should go ahead and be Yafer. You should go ahead and you should annul that vow that she says, because again, a husband can annul a wife's vow. Because if you don't annul the vow, so then if she makes over the certain amount of money, if she makes $120,000, then she gets to keep the extra $20,000. But what do you see from Rabbi Akiva? If you can annul a vow of the money that she's going to make, that means that a person can be makneh davar shel bolam. You could do business, you could do an annulment with something that's not yet in the world. The money that she's going to make is not yet in this world, and yet the hafara, the annulment that you're making now, saying that that money which you said was going to be yours, was going to be usher to me, I can make that annulment now. So the Gemara says, "Ha'idmar Allah Amar Afuna Bredi Rav Yeshua Beomeres Ikachu Yadei Leoseim Di Adaim Istu Ma'ama," saying you don't have to learn that Rabbi Akiva holds that you could be makneh davar shelo b'olam. Why? Because it's possible to say that in that case, the reason why Rabbi Akiva says that you should go ahead and you should annul it, and why the annulment will work, but why her masiyadeh will work, is because Beomeres Ikachu Yadei Leoseim. I'm just trying to think for a second outside because he was giving me a little bit of a look. So I like when people give me looks. The question is, when we're saying that you can be makneh davar shelo ba'olam, are we talking about the hafara, or are we talking about the fact that she's saying that maseh yadeha should go to me?
No, he's saying that he's going to revoke. He's saying he's
revoked again. She's taking a vow that says that any maseh yadeha that I make over the $100,000 goes to me. Rabbi Akiva is saying that he should be yafer that vow. He should be yafer that vow because Shema Tadif Alav Yosem Min Harayla. It sounds like the way that the Gemara is learning is not from what she's saying that we see that Adam Makneh Davar Shel Bolam. It sounds like with the Gemara, even though I would think maybe you could say, and that I think was what you were giving me a little bit of a look about. Correct? No, you're just giving me a look. Hey, you wasn't giving me a look. I'm just a little bit subconscious over here on camera. I feel like everybody's looking at me. I'm on camera. Okay, what am I going to do? Anyway, so Yafer... Smile. I'm smiling. I know. I can't even blow my nose because the camera's watching. Yeah. Yafer. So it seems like it's saying that Yafer is what? The Yafer is that we see from here that Adam Makneh Davar Shel Bolam, you can do business with something that's not in this world. The fact that he can be mafir, the neder, of something that's not in this world.
Right.
However, it's not that it's not in this world, because basically what she could be saying, the Gemara seems to be explaining that, let's say she said that Yikachu Maseh Yadayim, my hands are sanctified. Le'oseha. To whoever does them. Who's that? Me. My hands are sanctified. So when he's yafer that, what's he being yafer? He's not being yafer the stuff that's not yet in this world. He's being yafer the yadayim, which are currently in this world. So she's saying anything that my hands go ahead and touch, go to me and not to you. When he's being yafer them, when he's annulling the vow, he's not annulling a vow, and she's not taking a vow on something that's not in this world. She's taking a vow, again, it's a little bit hard to understand, but she's taking a vow of her hands. Her hands are here now. So when he's annulling the vow, he's not annulling something that doesn't exist. He's annulling whatever these hands are going to go ahead and whatever money they're going to make. And therefore you can explain that Rabbi Akiva, even though he says that you could be mayfair this and that there, it's not that Rabbi Akiva holds that a person can do business, that a person can be makneh davar shelo b'olam. He agrees you can't be makneh davar shelo b'olam. But over here we consider, even though again it's not 100%, we consider whatever money she makes later and the annulment that he's making now to be bala olam, to be currently in this world, because again, whatever money she makes and whatever she does is with these hands, and the hands are currently in this world. That's how the Gemara is explaining.
You practically stretch that to anything. Though.
Okay.
A non-Jewish person.
Again, but
goof is here.
But she had to say it out of her mouth. Again, the Gemara is saying, assuming that she said. If she didn't say it, so then of course it's, if she just says Maaseh Yadeh, she has to know what lines to use. She's a smart lady, obviously. She's making a lot of money, so she knows also that I got to say the right thing in order to keep it away from my husband. But if she doesn't say Yikachu Yadai L'Maaseihem, so then for sure, if she just says any stuff that I make will be mine and not my husband's, so that's a davar shelo b'olam. And if he's made for that, so if you say that he could be made for that, then you hold that you could be made for a davar shelo b'olam.
Her hands are here, but everything she's going to make.
Right. Einachanami. So the Gemara is learning that the fact that she has her hands here, so it's considered as if, to an extent, bala olam, and therefore you don't have to learn. The whole reason we're bringing that is you don't have to learn that Rabbi Akiva holds davar shelo b'olam. But if you learn that she didn't say Yikachu Yadai L'Maaseihem, so then in essence what you're learning is that she was mekadesh something to, well, she said that something that's not yet in this world is going to come to herself. He was able to do a hafara, But I think the way that the Gemara is learning is that the point is that the hafara, the vow which you're taking now on something which is not currently in this world, that vow will be chal ultimately, because we don't have to say that that she'll get the stuff later, because Lamaisa, when she does it, she'll get the stuff if it's over 120. The fact that the vow can kick in, that he's making now, later on stuff that's not yet in this world, if she doesn't say, Yadai Le'oseyem, so then we see, if you learn like that so you can learn it either way.
I still want to make a chiluk, because the cases we had yesterday was cases where that person doesn't have control.
We spoke about this at the end of the shir yesterday, off camera, but...
And this one, she has control over her hands, so it's not the same situation.
Interesting. Okay. Again, but we said yesterday that the cases in the Mishnah are not necessarily. The cases in the Mishnah, I can decide whether I want to be a Gerant, whether I want to become Jewish or not. I can't decide. The Beis has to decide. Okay. So now, if you learn like this, that Rabbi Akiva holds that Eina Demakne Davar Shelo Bo La'olam, which we'll see again, you can learn that brayta either way. And then he argues on all of these people. And now we're going to bring 7 cases, I believe. 7 cases where we see that a person can be makne davar shelo bo la'olam. Very interesting cases. The Amar Rav Menachem bar Yitzchak Rav Huna Karav Karav Yanai Rabbi Yanai Rabbi Chia Rabbi Chia Rabbi Meir Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Rabbi Akiva. The Amar the makne davar shelo bo la'olam. So the Gemara says all these people had a tradition from their Rabbi, and they all held that a person can be makne davar shelo bo la'olam. Rav Huna Mahi, again, just to clarify, because I'll keep saying it in Hebrew, but makne davar shelo bo la'olam means you could be kone, you could do business with a thing that is not yet in this world. Rav Huna Mahi. So now we're going to go through all 7 cases. What's the case of Rav Huna, where you say that you can be makne davar shelo bo la'olam when you're dealing with futures on a fruit tree? If I sell peiros dekel to my friend, I sell fruits that have not yet come onto the tree. I sell the futures in this tree to my friend. Until the tree actually blossoms, until the fruits actually grow, I can annul the deal. Once they come into this world, I can't go back on the deal, because the fact that I sold it to him even before they were here, the sale is chal. And just like any sale, I can go back on the sale until they come to this world. As soon as they come into this world, now the sale is chal, and now they belong to him as soon as they come into this world. For Rav Nachman Amar Af Mishabo La'olam Yachol Achsebo. But Rav Nachman says, Eina Demakne Davar Shelo Bo La'olam. The peiros that you sold before they were in this world didn't mean anything, and now when they come into this world, the sale is not chal, and he holds that therefore you can renege on the deal even now until he actually takes possession. And it's very interesting. For Rav Nachman Amar Af Mishabo La'olam Yachol Achsebo. Sorry, Rav Nachman Modina di Ishamid va'achil lo mafkina minei. This is very interesting. Even though he holds that the sale does not go through, because again you sold it before the peiros existed, once the guy eats the fruits, we don't take it away from him. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that we don't pump his stomach. What does it mean, lo mafkina minei? We don't take it away from him. So Rashi doesn't say anything here. The way that I understood this is that if the buyer already eats the fruits, so then it's keilu, he was kona the fruits when he ate it. The seller abided basically by the sale, even though mitzad halacha the sale was not a sale, according to Rav Nachman. And I think what we're basically saying is that he's not a stealer. He's got to pay for the goods, obviously, but we don't consider him in halacha to have stolen the stuff, because at the end of the day, the seller, even though he was mistaken by thinking he could sell something that's not bala olam, the seller went along with it. He wasn't screaming, "Don't take it." He said, "You could take it," because he thought that I can sell stuff before. So again, for our purposes, we see that Rav Huna says that if you make a sale before the peiros are even in this world, so then you the sale go through. I'm trying to think where this would be l'maisa. Maybe your wife's pregnant, you sell the child before your bad idea. Don't try that at home. Okay, Rav de Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav. So Rav says, "Haomer lechavero sada zu shani lokech lekishe ekachena knuya lach me'achshav." Beautiful. So you have a sada, and I want to sell it to you. The problem is I don't own it. So sada zu, this sada that I'm going to buy from him, when I buy it from him, it's going to be yours, but we're doing the deal right now. So right now the sada, again, when I say davar shelo bo la'olam, it's not that it's not necessarily here, like the peiros are dafka not here. The mamish not here in the world. But over here, the field is here, it's just not here vis-a-vis me. It doesn't belong to me. So if I sell you something that doesn't belong to me, that it'll be basically the transaction that we're doing now, obviously is not chal right now because it's not mine, but we're doing the transaction now, and this transaction that we're doing now will kick in as soon as I take possession. So again, if you hold Ein Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam, then you can't do the transaction, the sale, until it's mine. But if you hold that Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam, then I can do the transaction with you now, and as soon as I take possession of the thing which is currently not ba in my olam, then it's going to be yours. So we see that Rav Huna says that if I say to you, my friend, that this sada that I'm going to buy, when I get it, the kinyan that we're doing now will be chal. So kana. Clearly he holds that Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. Rabbi Yanai Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Yanai's case is Rabbi Yanai Havelei Arisa to have a Maisile Kinsa de Pire Komali Shapsa. Like we buy our wife flowers every Shabbos, so he had a sharecropper who used to bring him a barrel of fruits, a bucket of fruits every Friday afternoon. Beautiful. It was getting late on Friday afternoon, and the sharecropper didn't come with the fruits for Shabbos. Shakal asar mi pere de beis ve'elayu. But what did he do? He was nervous, because what happens if the messenger comes on Shabbos, so now I can't eat the fruits because I can't take off Trumas and Maisros. I can't take off Trumas and Maisros on Shabbos. So what did he do? He took fruits that he had in his house, and he took off Trumos and Maisros for the fruits that would be arriving hopefully before Shabbos, but maybe on Shabbos. Also, so what does that mean? By the fact that he took off the Trumas Maiso now, he was Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. Again, the fruits are not yet in his world. He took off Trumas and Maisos for something that's not yet in his world. If you hold that, you can do that. So clearly you hold that Adam is Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. Also, he came before Rav Chia, Amar Lei Shaper Avadet. You did okay. You were allowed to be Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. Why? Ditanya Laman Tilma Diras Hashem Lakacha Kol Hayamim Elu Shabbatos V'Yomim Tovim. The pasuk says you need to learn to fear God all of your days, and Rashi says you need to chill out a little bit. You need to enjoy. When is that? Elu Shabbatos V'Yomim Tovim. The Torah is telling us you should enjoy, and you should have Oneg Shabbos and Oneg Yantiv. Lemay Hilchasa. So what's it coming to teach us when it comes to this case? Eilima le'asurei umeichal itzrei karla mishrei tilta derabanan. It can't be. This is very interesting. Listen carefully. It can't be that the pasuk is coming to give me permission for my Oneg Shabbos to take off Trumos and Maisros on Shabbos. Why? Because the fact that you can't take off Trumos and Maisros on Shabbos is only an Issa D'Rabbanan, as Rashi points out. So the Torah, I don't want to sound the wrong way, before the rabbis existed, for simplistic terms, it's not true. But the Torah is not going to say that even though the rabbi said don't take off Trumas and Maisos, so you should have Oneg Shabbos. How should you have Oneg Shabbos? Prepare before Shabbos. It can't be that the Torah is warning you to take off Trumas and Maisos before Shabbos, because the Isser of taking off Trumas and Maisos on Shabbos is only Midrabanan. So how can the Torah be warning you? So it can't be that the Torah was telling you to prepare for Shabbos, to have proper Oneg Shabbos, and prepare before Shabbos, right? There's a famous idea, the Mishnah. Prepare for Friday for Shabbos. What does that mean? Prepare in this world Friday for the next world Shabbos Kodesh. So it can't be that the Torah is warning you to prepare on Friday for Shabbos vis-a-vis taking off Trumas and Maisos, because according to the Torah, you're allowed to take off Trumas and Maisos on Shabbos. So what must it be? Turn the page. El alav ki haygavne must be this case. Now what's it telling you? That for Oneg Shabbos, you could prepare on Friday for Shabbos, even if what? Even if you don't yet have the fruits on Friday, and therefore he's proving from this pasuk that Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam, and therefore what you did was right, and it was okay, because based on the pasuk that you're supposed to have Oneg Shabbos, and you're supposed to prepare on Friday, the Torah was basically telling you that a person can be Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. Again, it sounds like a little bit of a stretch to use this pasuk for that, but that's what he's doing, and therefore it's okay that you took off Trumas and Maisos for something that was not yet in this world, before Shabbos.
How different than this than Brera? You know, Brera also is not concrete, and yet somehow it comes
retroactively. It worked. Yeah.
It's a similar concept, isn't it?
It's a similar. So I don't know the Mitzius. Maybe there are those who say that that's working based on the concept of Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. I don't know. Interesting question. Amar Lei. So he said back to him. So basically, right, so we were bringing this as a proof that Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam, so that's what he did. Amar Lei, the problem is Friday night he had a bad dream. Comes him back the next day. He told me I could do this. Friday night he has a dream that says that he was like a withered or splintered kana, like a reed. My love, hachi kamri la. So he says, my love, hachi kamri la, hine batachta lecha al mishanta hakana haratzot hazeh. So he basically said, ay. It seems like the dream was telling me that what I did was wrong. I'm a withered and broken, splintered kana. Read. Lo, hachi kamri lach. No, that's not what the dream meant. Kana ratzut sol yishbor pishta kei lo yichbena. No, it doesn't mean that you're withered. It means that even though you're withered, you're not going to break. And even though flax is flickering, it's not going to go out. I.e., originally he interpreted the dream as saying that he did something wrong, and he came and his Rabbi told him, no, you didn't do anything wrong, you did exactly what you were allowed to do, because at the end of the day, Adam Makne Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. Okay? Rabbi Where do we see that Rabbi holds that Adamak Nadav Shelo Bala Olam? Tanya Lo Taskir Eved El Adonav. A Eved can't be delivered, can't be closed off by his master. Rabbi Omer, what's this case here? What's the pasuk warning? Belokeach Eved al Menat L'Shachrero Hakasa Medaber. It's talking about a case where I buy an Eved, and my condition of buying the Eved, or the intention that I have when buying the Eved, is to actually go ahead and free the Eved. So Rashi says, the pasuk is warning me, shelo lihishtabed bo. If I know that I'm going to free him soon, then I shouldn't work him too hard. Heichi dami, what's the case? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, dechasav lei, what happened? I wrote an emancipation agreement for your Eved. In the case where I wrote an emancipation agreement to your Eved and said, when I purchase you, you will be freed as of now. So then that's chal. So what do we see over there? We see that even though the Eved is not yet mine, at the end of the day, I can write an emancipation agreement for a davar shelo bala olam, and as soon as he becomes mine, so it will be chal.
This is a Jewish slave, I assume.
What?
Jewish slave.
I'm assuming it's a Jewish slave, yes. I just wasn't clear. I wasn't clear from the pasuk when it says not to work him hard. Right. I wasn't clear whether the halacha is that now that master, it was hard for me to understand this, but that master, again, if I give an emancipation agreement to your slave, saying that as soon as I purchase him from you, so it sounds like we're like in some type of negotiations, because again, it doesn't make sense that if I give an emancipation document to your slave, that the Torah is telling you can't work him hard anymore. I mean, it's ridiculous. You're the original owner. Right. It sounds like, again, this is just my understanding of the case, that we're in some type of negotiations. I'm going to buy your Eved shortly. I give him an emancipation agreement that says that as soon as the sale goes through, you're going to be free. That's considered to be a davar shelo bala olam, which we see here is chal. And it sounds like the pasuk is warning that since you're in negotiations and since he's going to be going free right after the sale is chal, again, the way that I'm understanding is that you, the original master, now should not overwork him because he's on the potential path to freedom or on the path to soon freedom. That's what it sounds like to me.
What's the practical implication of retroactivity here?
We're doing this way as soon as the sale goes through. It could be anything. It could be that I'm going to be away. I'm saying,
but no. What I'm saying is, if you're giving an emancipation,
so it could right
when I buy you.
So it's an interesting point. So if it would have not said me'achshav, so then that sounds like you still would have had the proof that a person can be makna davar shelo bal olam. Right? Because at the end of the day, I'm giving you the emancipation that it'll take care. It sounds like Me'achshav is Dafka explaining, again, the way that I'm understanding, it's Dafka explaining what I'm explaining. That Me'achshav kicks in that now he, the original owner, knowing that this emancipation is going to go through Me'achshav, even he can't overwork the Eved now because ultimately the Eved is going to go free as soon as he becomes my property. I think that is actually a very good diuk, and that might be exactly where the Gemara is getting this idea from. Beautiful. Rabbi Meir, sure you don't want to give the shiur on Wednesday?
No.
Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir did not. Rabbi Meir says, "Ha'omer leish Aryai mikudesh li la'achar she'etz gayer." So now we're bringing our case again. I read on the bottom of Tzadi Beis and Beis. We tried bringing this case to tell us whether kedushin is tofes, whether it works or not when you're zakuk liyavam, when you go l'shuk, whether you marry that girl in the shuk, whether the kedushin is tofes or not. And we said, "Oh, beautiful! You understand the Mishnah like that. It's only because I just told you that." But at the end of the day, the pashup shah, like we said, which we're going to use it for here. Is that okay? It's talking about being makne davar shelo bala olam. Haomer li Aryai mikudesh li la'achar she'etz gayer, la'achar she'tiskari, la'achar she'eshtachrer, la'achar she'tishtachri, la'achar she'yamez ba'alach, la'achar she'tamud achotech, la'achar she'yachlo tzlach yivimech, eina mikudesh. Rabbi Meir omer mikudesh. That's the mission we just had. That if I say we're doing kedusha now and it'll be chal as soon as I become Jewish, as soon as you become Jewish, as soon as I'm freed, as soon as you're freed, as soon as your husband dies, as soon as your sister dies, as soon as you get chalitza from your yavam. So according to the Tanakama, eina mikudeshes, because ein adam makne davar shelo bala olam. But according to Rabbi Meir, who we're trying to prove for, mikudeshes, because even though we're doing the sale now, even though we're doing the kedusha now for something that's lo bala olam, you or me is currently not in the world because we're either not Jewish or we're not freed or we're just not mutter to each other. At the end of the day, mikudeshes, as soon as that thing happens, and this thing that we did now, this transaction works because adam makne davar shelo bala olam. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, what's the case that he has? Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Yaakov, case number 6. Titania Yeser al Kain Amar Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Afilu Imamar. So we need to have a little bit of background here, not much, but the halacha is simply that you can't separate trumos and maestros from cut produce for produce that's still attached. If you have cut produce, you can separate trumas and maestros from it for the other cut produce. But you can't separate cut produce for produce that's attached, and you can't say that trumas and maestros on this attached produce will work for the cut produce. However, if you said, as we'll see here, that it should go into effect, let's just give an example. We have attached produce, and we're saying that this truma that I'm taking off of the cut produce should go into effect as soon as that attached produce reaches 1/3 of its growth, i.e., it becomes a real pre and it is detached, then even though I'm making that stipulation now before it reaches 1/3 and before it's detached, at the end of the day I can make the stipulation that the trumos and maestros that I'm taking off now for that attached produce, even though I can't now take off trumos and maestros for that attached produce, as soon as it becomes detached and has reached 1/3 of its growth, so therefore the thing that I'm doing now, the separation is going to work now. Why? Because the transaction that I'm making now will kick in as soon as it reaches 1/3 and as soon as it's detached, even though if you say you wouldn't be able to do the separation until it's actually detached after it's reached 1/3. So yes, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov afilu imam peros aruga zu tlushim yehechuma al peros aruga mechubarim, that this tlushim, cut produce, should be truma for the peros that are still attached, or peros aruga mechubarim al peros zu tlushin. And by both of these cases, it's not a third case, both of these cases you say l'chesheyaviu shlish v'yitalshu, it'll kick in as soon as the peros that are currently attached reach 1/3 and I separate them. V'heviu shlish v'nitlashu, now it reaches 1/3 and you separate them. Dvar of kayamin, what you said before now kicks in, because at the end of the day, adamak nedavar shelo ba la'olam. Rabbi Akiva, the last proof, Rabbi Akiva, and again the Gemara here is learning that the woman did not say yikachu yadai le'osayim, like the Gemara suggested maybe she said before. But Rabbi Akiva, assuming that he didn't say it, so then when Rabbi Akiva says that the Baal should be Meifir because the Masi Adeh will ultimately go to her, so then he should be Meifir, and the Meifir will work because Adamak Nedar Shlo Bala Olam. So Rabbi Akiva's did non konim shani yotze lepicha ino tzarich lahafer. Rabbi Akiva Omer yafer shematadif alav yeser min haraylo. As we explained before, that's the proof that Rabbi Akiva is makne davar shelo bal olam. Shkoyach. That is all of these cases makne davar shelo bal olam.
I don't understand. Isn't a vow different from buying and selling? I mean, all the vows are made about future things, aren't they? I mean, they're all almanat. They're all, I vow I'll sacrifice the next thing that comes through my door. That's something that hasn't come into the world yet.
Right, so again, it sounds, that's why, and it's an excellent question, that's why it sounds like, from the Gemara, that the makne davar shelo balam is not going on the vow. It's going on the fact that the husband can annul the vow. That he's annulling the vow now, and he's only annulling it once it kicks in, once she makes a certain amount of money. Now the annulment that I'm making now is going to kick in later on, even though right now that money doesn't exist. The annulment that you made on that money, which doesn't currently exist, that annulment is going to kick in later, even though I'm making the annulment now. But what you're saying is, in terms of the vow, that's why I don't think that it's the vow that we're talking about, davar shelo balam, because again, like you're saying, every vow, or not every vow, it could be that I'm making a vow for now, but many vows are for later, and they're chal. But I think it's the fact that the hafara, the annulment, is the part that we're concentrating on. It makes sense because Rabbi Akiva says yafer. Both of them are saying you could take a vow. The Gemara is not saying vows are davar shelo balam. It's saying that the hafara that he makes, the annulment, is a davar shelo balam. Now we're going to have an interesting case based on what we started yesterday and based on what we've been saying during this parak. We said until now that an eid echad who comes and says that your husband died, so we said you're allowed to marry based on the eid echad. And you're allowed to marry because you're supposed to do your due diligence. If you marry and you didn't do your due diligence, so at the end of the day, you're going to have to get a get. If he shows up, you have to get a get from both of them, and then you're subject to all of the penalties in the Mishnah. So now the Gemara is asking a question. A little bit of a different case. It's not just where an eid echad comes and says that your husband died. It's where an eid echad comes and says your husband dies, and like we had yesterday, the result of your husband dying is that you're going to be zakuk liyavam now. So there's an additional level here. We said that we believe in eid echad that your husband died. Are we still going to believe in eid echad when it's not just that your husband died and now you can marry anybody? Are we going to believe in eid echad when it comes your husband died and now you need to go to the yavam? Why? So seemingly the question seems to be because since there is an isser, I was trying to figure out, I believe we said it's an isser kares, right? To be with the yavam. It's definitely not just an Isser Lav. I think they were saying that it's an Isser Lav to be with the one Lashuk, and I believe that if you're with your Ravam, Shalo Kedarka, if you're not allowed to be with the Yavam, I believe it's an Isser Kares. So the question is, now that we have this added, I believe it's an Isser Kares, but even if it's just Isser Lav, but I believe it's an Isser Kares. Now that we have an added Isser Kares, again, the regular, you could say, the regular case was also an Eishes Ish, that we're believing him, I'll say Shadis. But over here, it's not just that we're believing him that your husband's dead and you're not going to be an Eishes Ish. We're going to say now that you're going to be Zakuk Liyavam, and if he goes out and does the Yibum, then we're believing in Erecha not just that you can marry anybody, that you could go ahead and marry the Yavam. Are we going to go that far? So the Gemara says, what's the stad? So the Gemara says, here are the two stadim. If you say the reason that we believe in Erecha is because Lamaisa is not going to lie about something that's going to ultimately come to fruition. If he's lying about the husband being dead and then the husband's just going to show up, he's not going to lie about such a thing where he's going to be proven wrong, so then he's not going to lie here either. Or maybe the reason that we believe in Eirechad in general that the husband died is because she's going to do her due diligence, and if she doesn't, she's going to be penalized. But maybe over here she's not going to do her due diligence. Why? Because when there's a Yevama, she might love the Yavam. Now, again, don't make it sound inappropriate, but she already has a pre-existing relationship with her brother-in-law. So it could be that in general, when we go ahead, we believe in Eidachan and let you marry Lashuk, because at the end of the day, you're going to do your due diligence. But maybe we won't believe in Eidachan when the result is that you're going to go ahead and be to the Yavam, because maybe you're not going to check as much and do your due diligence, because at the end of the day, okay, my husband's dead, I believe you, and what's the big deal? I'll go ahead and I'll marry his brother. So maybe we wouldn't believe in Erechad. That's the tzad to say that we won't believe in Erechad when the result of that when the result of that Erechad's testimony is that you're going to have to marry the Yavam.
Even though she knows the dire consequences, they're more dire.
Correct. Interesting. Fine. Let's just finish up over here. So the Gemara says, Amar lahu Rav Sheshes tinitzuha. I have a proof for you that we do believe the Erechad even when it's by Yavam. Why? Amrula meis benech ve'achakach. In the case where they said, again, two Eidim seemingly said that your son died and then your husband died, which means that you are chayav in Yibum, and she does Yibum. The case we had yesterday, and then they say, no, your husband died first, and therefore you're actually not mutter to the Yavam. So what do we say? She needs to divorce him, and the Rishon and Achron that she had with this guy from the Shuk is going to be a mamzer, because the Maisa she was zakuk liyavam. Heichidami, what's the case? If you have two Eidim that came and said that you were Zakuk Liyavam because your son died first, and then two Eidim came and said that no, your husband died first. So my chaz is to Samechehani, Samechahani. It's 2 versus 2. 2 Eidim versus 2 Eidim. Why are we believing? Why are we making you be Teitzei? Why are we going ahead and saying that the children are Mamzerim? Lamaisa, you have 2 that say that it was what you did was right, and 2 that say that what you did was wrong. And also, ve'od mamzer, suffik mamzer who? They're only suffik mamzerim. They're not vaday mamzerim, because at the end of the day, you have 2 Eidim that say that what you did was right, and that they're not mamzerim at all, and you have 2 Eidim that say what you did was wrong. So why are they saying that it's pasha, that they're mamzerim? V'chitema lo dak. If you say the Gemara is not being dak, and really when it says mamzerim, it's suffik mamzerim. That's not true. V'hamidiktani sefer harisha mamzer, achron eno mamzer. The Bryce itself is very careful to say the Rishon is mamzer, the achron is not a mamzer. Shmami na dafka ketani. The Mishnah, the Bryce is being very, very medayik. So how could it be that it's a case where there are 2 Eidim coming and then 2 Eidim coming? At the end of the day, there would be suffik mamzerim, and why would you believe one over the other? Why would you say teitzei, and why would you say that they're mamzerim? So one can argue that you would say teitzei because you have a suffik. But at the end of the day, why are these mamzerim and not suffik mamzerim? Ele must be lav shmami nachad. So what happened? It must be that 1 Eid came. V'taima da'asu beitrei achashuha halav hachimahamin. So what must the case be? The case must be that 1 Eid came and said what? 1 Eid came and said your son died and then your husband died and you need to do yibum. And she does yibum. Now 2 Eidim come and say no, that's wrong. Who do we believe? We believe the 2 Eidim. Therefore she needs to be teitzei from the yavam, and any kids that she had with the yavam are going to be mamzerim. But what do we see from here? That before the 2 Eidim came, we believed the Eid Echad, even though the testimony was resulting in her marrying the Yavam. That's the proof. Or we could say, Halo Tibaylacha. Or we could say, you didn't even have to bring this proof. You didn't even have to ask the question. It's a bad question about whether an Eid Echad is believed by Yevama. It's pasha that the Eid Echad is believed by Yevama. Why? The girl, the woman herself is believed. when she says that she's going to go ahead and marry the Yavam. Why? Where do we see that? Nan. Haisha she'amar meis ba'ali, a woman who says that my husband died, just like in Eid Echad we believe the woman too. And not just that, Tina says she can be married. Meis ba'ali tis yabeim. We see that we believe a woman who says that my husband died and I need to marry the Yibum. So we didn't even have a shaila that would we or would we not believe the Eid Echad when the Eid Echad comes and says you have to do Yibum. Of course we're going to believe the Eid Echad. Kiti ba'ilcha. So what's the kasha? What was the question that we were asking? No. Lemishre Yevama la'alma. Ooh, this is even a deeper question. Are we going to believe Eid Echad to marry somebody off the street? Are we going to believe Eid Echad that this woman can marry somebody in the shuk 100%? Are we going to believe Eid Echad that this person can marry the Yavam 100%? Are we going to believe in Eid Echad that the Yevama is good la'alma? Are we going to believe in Eid Echad Matira Lashuk who says Meis Yevamech? Do we believe in Eid Echad who says that your Yevamech, the person that you did Yibum with, died? Why would we not believe in Eid Echad when we say the person who did Yibum with died? So let's see. Well, the person who you need to do Yibum with died. So why would you not believe him? Because, again, my time at Eid Echad depends what the reason that you believe in Eid Echad is. If you believe in Eid Echad, because ultimately the Eid Echad is not going to lie, so the Eid Echad is not going to lie here, even when they say that the person that you need to do Yibum with died. So you could go ahead and do it. What would be the svara to say that you're not going to believe in Eid Echad when the Eid Echad comes and says that the person that you're zakuk liyavam to died? Why would you not believe him? So we said before that your yavam you're going to have a deeper connection to. You're going to maybe love, and you're not going to do as much research, and you're going to go ahead and marry. Now we're going the opposite way. It's also possible that since he's your brother-in-law, you're going to hate him more than you hate other people on the street. Therefore, what? Maybe when it's an Eid Echad, you're going to go ahead, and the reason we let you marry al pi Eid Echad is because you're going to go ahead and you're really going to do your due diligence. But over here, where the Eid Echad comes and says your yavam, that your zakuk, your brother-in-law that you're supposed to marry now died, she's not going to look into it all. She's going to be the happiest lady in the world because she always hated her brother-in-law. She's going to run to the street and she's going to marry the first person off the street because I just want to get married so that I can stay away from this guy. So we're using the reverse logic here. So again, the question was, do we believe in Eid Echad when the Eid Echad comes and says that you're mutter l'shuk 100%? Do we believe in Eid Echad when the Eid Echad comes and says that you have to go ahead and either marry or do chalitza with the Yavam 100%? The question is, do we believe in Eid Echad when the Eid Echad comes and says that your Yavam died, that the person that you zakuk liyavam died? That's the shaila. Because on one end we would say, of course we believe them, just like we believe everybody, all of the other Eid Echads, because at the end of the day, the Eid Echad's not going to lie, because if they lie, then they're going to be caught. But on the other hand, maybe we shouldn't believe this Eid Echad, because the whole reason that we believe Eid Echad also is that you're going to go ahead and do your due diligence. But since it's your brother-in-law, you might hate your brother-in-law, and you might go be happy to marry the first guy, and you're not actually going to go ahead and do your due diligence. And maybe over here we shouldn't believe the Eid Echad who says that the person that you're zakuk liyavam, your yavam, went ahead and died. Have a wonderful day.